Norton Conservation Commission meeting for Monday, June 8th, 2020, beginning at 6:30 p.m., although currently it's 6:34 p.m. It is by remote participation only, and I am going to read the legal notice concerning that. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, General Law, Chapter 30A, paragraph 18, and the Governor's March 15, 2020 order imposing strict limitation on the number of people that may gather in one place. This meeting of the Norton Conservation Commission will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information and the general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and or parties with a right and or requirement to attend this meeting can be found at the end of the agenda. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so, despite best efforts, we will post on the Norton Cable website, which is https www.nortonmediacenter.org, an audio or video recording, transcript, and other comprehensive record of the proceedings as soon as possible after this meeting. At this time, we're going to take a moment for a comment about a member of the community who has had an effect over many years, and Dan Pearson will open that discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to request of the Commission and audience a few moments of silence in memory of Dr. Myrna S. Pearson, Professor of Chemistry and Environmental Science at Wheaton College, who passed on 3 Sundays ago at age 83. During a life distinguished by great determination and industry, Dr. Pearson lived by the adage, think globally, act locally. It was under her auspices that Wheaton College's program in environmental studies was founded, and she directed Wheaton students in the study of the effects of pollution on the Norton Reservoir. Importantly for this commission, data from her research was used in support of commission objectives. Finally, I have vivid memories from decades ago of going to the reservoir dam with my parents to lower sample containers into the water. Thank you for all your efforts, Mom. Thank you all for your consideration. Mr. Chairman?
And I will add, I have been on this commission for many, many years and been involved with evaluating the reservoir and trying to decide the best route forward for improving the situation. And I recall going over the data that Dr. Myrna Pearson provided to us, provided to everyone, and we appreciated that. And I laud her view of think globally and acting locally.
Thank you.
We
for sharing that, Dan.
Sure thing, Dan. Yeah. She liked your name, Dan.
All right, we are now, the first item on the agenda is, are we going to go to the discussion, or do I need to read the chairperson to read about public hearings?
You have to read about public hearings. That's at the advice of town council. And just for people listening who have not attended before, right now everybody is muted and your audio is off. When it is time for public comment on a specific hearing, we will open that up for comments and we'll give you some direction at that point. So if you would please stay muted for the time being, we would appreciate that. It helps keep down the reverberation and the background noise. So, yes, Julian.
All right. No in-person attendance of meetings of the public hearing will be permitted, but the public can listen to, view this public hearing/meeting while in progress by logging into Zoom conference meeting listed at the end of this agenda. Members of the public attending this public hearing/meeting virtually will be allowed to make comments if they wish to during the portion of the hearing designated for public comment by raising their hand virtually or pressing *9 if participating by phone. The next item is discussion with Matt Ladwick, and it concerns the treatment of lakes and ponds this year. So we can open it up to Matt.
Yes, thank you. Matt Ladwick from ESS Group. And I just wanted to provide an update on...
Sorry.
No problem. That one's coming up soon. An update on the plans for the ponds this year. So far, actually, I don't know if I need to see this or not.
Okay, don't want it yet?
That's okay, I just exited full screen. Okay, I'm set. So for Winnicott Pond, we actually just received our annual sonar treatment approval from Natural Heritage. And as far as I'm aware, the town is under contract for treatment. So I did talk to Solitude Lake Management, and their plan is to provide notifications as soon as possible to get that treatment underway this year for Winnicott Pond. Norton Reservoir, we just actually completed our pre-treatment mapping there on Friday, and we will be sharing that information with Solitude to help guide their herbicide treatment and hand pulling efforts this year. We found exotic fanwort, milfoils, and water chestnut all present. These will be treated or pulled in 2020, and again, Solitude will be sending out notifications as soon as possible, within the next week, I think. And then finally, Chartley Pond, I'm actually attending tonight as well for an amendment request in front of the Conservation Commission. Regardless of what happens there, what treatments might come out of that, there will be hand pulling of water chestnut planned for Chartley Pond this summer again. So that's the latest updates by pond.
Okay.
Happy to take any questions.
Matt, with the Natural Heritage approval, do you see any reason that we need to amend the existing order of conditions, or you're good with their approval doesn't require any changes?
My understanding is that their approval is exactly the same as it was the last time, so I don't think we'll require any changes to that.
Okay. Okay, so I know we have a number of people in the audience who signed in to hear about the update, and so we'll just point out for people, if you have questions, if you roll your mouse down to the bottom, you'll see the participant tab come up. If you click the participant tab, it doesn't show on mine because I'm the host, but on the bottom there should be a blue hand where it says raise hand. So if you have a question about the ongoing treatment of any of the water bodies, if you raise your hand, that would be helpful to us. Oh, Ron has a question. Yeah, Ron.
My question has to do with we pump from the pond for our lawn. Is there a period where we should stop after the treatment?
Yes, there are irrigation restrictions in place with most of the herbicides that we have permitted or are requesting a permit to apply. It does vary depending on the herbicide applied, but I can provide that information for you.
I appreciate that.
Okay, anything else from you, Ron?
Does it have any effect on the animals?
Not that we've seen in our monitoring. The levels that it's applied at, the levels are specifically set to minimize impacts on aquatic life while impacting the target species, the plants that we're trying to control.
What about the deer that go to the pond and drink water?
The chemicals that we've been using don't have any drinking water restrictions on them for humans, really. So I can't really speak specifically to deer drinking occasional water from the pond, but I would anticipate that there wouldn't be a major problem there.
Thank you.
Okay, Ron, you're all set?
Yep.
Okay, so we do have a question from Colleen Smith, so I'm going to unmute you now so you can ask your question. So go ahead, Colleen.
This is actually Colleen's husband. So
Okay.
apologize for the deep voice. So my question is, does this contract for treatment of, say, Lake Winnicott continue into next year, or is there a renegotiation period?
I'm not sure I have the information to answer that particular question.
I think we know the contract is signed for this year. It may need to go to town meeting for funding, or it might not. That part I'm not sure about. And I think we do that on an annual basis, so next year it might need to go back to town meeting again. But as far as we know, this year we do have funding.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to lower your hand unless you have another question.
Nope. Feel free.
Okay. I don't see any other blue hands, but is anyone not able to find that button? If not, you can unmute yourself or send us some other kind of signal and I'll unmute you.
Jen, it looks like there are about 12, I don't know which view you have, but it looks like there are about 12 people who are attending the meeting in addition to us, but they seem to be, for the most part, muted.
Yes. Everybody should be muted unless they have a question or they're a board member. And then as they raise their hand, we're happy to unmute them so they can ask their questions. But it doesn't look like there are any other hands, so I don't think there are any other questions. You also have the option of typing your question into the chat function at the bottom, but it really is better if you just raise your hand and ask your question out loud. Okay, it doesn't look like there's any more questions for that, so if you would like to go ahead to the first hearing, the amendment to the order of conditions.
Yes, so this is concerns file 250-980, and it concerns Chartley Pond invasive plant treatment, and it is a request to allow additional chemical treatment options like sonar, flumioxazin, and porcella core. Sounds a bit like a mushroom, but maybe you can expand upon that.
Thanks. I think we're set for the presentation now, Jen, if you'd like to put that back up. And just for the record, I'm Matt Ladwig from ESS Group. Yeah, so we're looking at Chartley Pond here. The primary issue that's developed at Chartley Pond is that we now have sandwort in a pond where it did not exist previously when we submitted our NOI and received the original order of conditions. So we did observe it in 2017, but at that time it was only a few sprigs, and we plan to take care of it the next season. Of course, the next season we had the dam repair drawdown in 2018, and so nobody really knew what the impact of that was going to be on Fanwort. We thought, well, let's wait and take a look and see if it gets better. Turns out in 2019, Fanwort did reappear. The bottom left corner of this slide, you'll see that in early summer, we were able to detect it in one location in the middle of the pond. And by the end of the summer, it had expanded significantly to various areas of the pond, including at some very dense levels. So I think all told, we had close to 2.5 acres of fanwort in the pond by the end of 2019. So knowing this plant the way we do, and we have this in Lake Winnicott as well as Norton Reservoir, we know that if it's not addressed, more expansion is likely for 2020. So the actions we've taken under the existing order of conditions at Chartley Pond have included water chestnut treatment in 2017 with imazamox chloricast, which was already approved under that order of conditions. In 2018, as I mentioned, we didn't do a treatment due to the drawdown for dam repair. And then last year, in 2019, we did switch to hand harvesting because of the reduced levels of water chestnut, so we didn't have to do a chemical treatment for water chestnut. We did start treating for variable leaf milfoil, which was originally approved under the order conditions, but was not picked up as a treatment action by the town until 2019. And then the fanwort continued to expand. So obviously we need a new tool to address that fanwort. And you can see here in the bottom right-hand corner, it's a big plant, takes up a lot of space, produces a lot of biomass, so it can have a very big impact on the pond. Next slide, please. So what we are requesting under this request is to add a few new chemicals into the toolbox that we have for Chartley Pond. There's two specific ones that would address the fanwort infestation. One is flumioxazin, and the other is fluoridone, also known as Sonar, which is the trade name. Both of these are already included in the Norton Reservoir order of conditions, and we've used them there successfully. So we're just asking to add those into the order of conditions for Chartley Reservoir so that we can address the fanwort issue here. The good news is that Sonar, actually both of these, are also effective on milfoil. So if we do a Sonar treatment, we'd anticipate that that would affect both the exotic milfoil as well as the fanwort. One other chemical that we'd like to add into the mix is a new one that was not available originally when we submitted the original NOI. It's called Procelicor. This is another systemic herbicide that can be applied at low doses, and it's really a very effective herbicide on milfoil. So it wouldn't affect the fanwort. I don't think we would use it immediately in Chartley Pond, but it is something that if we were able to get control of the fanwort, we'd like to, be able to have it in our toolbox in case we get control of the fanwort and they're still having issues with the milfoil. So that's basically the extent of the request. We're not looking to treat any new areas of the pond. It would be the same areas that have been impacted by or affected by the treatments in the past.
All right, well, maybe we can open it up to any questions from other members of the commission.
Well, this is Dan Pearson. I guess one of the questions is that there are new chemicals, and so are there chemicals, in fact, in addition to Zoxin and fluoridone and Propelicor, or are these just groups of chemicals? Basically, I'm asking about new chemicals from the last briefing.
You're asking if these would be new to treatment in Norton, or maybe you can clarify the question a little bit?
Well, I think there are Yes, are they new to, are you using chemicals new to treatment in Norton? I believe you are, aren't you?
The flumioxazin and the fluoridone, the sonar, have been used at Norton Reservoir, and sonar has been applied at Lake Winnicott as well. Procelicor is a new chemical herbicide to the state of Massachusetts. It had been used all over the country for a few years before it came here.
Okay.
But it was approved last year, and it did get used in some ponds last year.
Okay.
But that one has not been used to my knowledge in Norton.
But it has been used elsewhere in Massachusetts.
Correct, yes.
Matt, do you know where they used it?
I know of a treatment that was done at Dudley Pond in Wayland. I think there were a few others. I don't know them all off the top of my head.
So part of my question was on the SDS sheet that talks about the chemical. There is a chart with different types of plants that it is effective on, but the milfoil wasn't listed. And so I wondered if you had, what was the approval process in Massachusetts? Is there some sort of paper that says it's approved or that it's effective on the milfoil, or it doesn't say on the actual SDS sheet?
Yeah, I think what happened there, Jen, is there are two separate labels, and I think you were sent the incorrect one.
Okay.
There's a Procelicor SC and Procelicor EC. I think you were sent the SC, and the EC does list milfoil. Okay. Basically, it's the same formulation. It's just got a lower active ingredient, or lower concentration of the active ingredient.
Okay.
So I can send that to you. Yeah.
Okay. And then the request doesn't really mention any suggestions or recommendations for the dosage. So that's something that we have for all of the chemicals in the order of conditions. So if you can get some more clarification on the actual dosage so we can put it in the order, that would be helpful. Same with the sampling and monitoring protocol. If that's any different than what we already have in the permit for the other chemicals, then we would need to include that in the amended order.
Sure. Yeah, I think I can get you sort of what a maximum dose would be under this. It may not be needed every time it's treated, if it's treated at all. And then for my review of the prior orders and conditions, I don't think there were any specific monitoring requirements for most of the other herbicides outside of sonar. So I wouldn't anticipate anything for Procelicor at this point. But of course, if there's something the commission wanted us to look at specifically, we would be happy to do that.
Okay. That was it for my questions. So actually, I'm going to stop sharing if everybody's good with that.
Have we received the check for the legal notice yet, Jim?
That I don't know, so maybe Melissa is on the line and can answer.
I don't recall getting that check.
Well, as a request for an amendment, did that go through the normal process of advertisement and all that?
Correct. Yep. Any amendment to a permit, you have to notify abutters and include the legal notice. Yep.
All right. Well, I think if there are no more questions from members of the commission, we can.
So I have one.
Okay, Lisa, go ahead.
So, do you intend to do a step-by-step process and use the new chemical last? When do you take stock of determining when you need that last, new chemical? Either film or the other flu, whatever it is, first, and then take stock and do some monitoring and figure out we do need that new chemical, or what's the order?
Right. So I would anticipate that the new chemical, the Procelicor, I think is what you're referring to, that would only be used if we got to the situation where the Fanwort was considered to be under control, but the milfoil was not brought under control, or for some reason, because we controlled the Fanwort, the milfoil started to take off in a way that we felt we needed something else to knock that back. I'm not sure it will be needed at all, but we didn't think that we would need sonar either when we originally went for this order of conditions, because we didn't have Fanwort, and it surprised us because we're upstream of all the known Fanwort infestations in the system. So somehow it got into Chartley Pond, so we just want to be prepared in case we do need it.
Okay, so is it a matter of you contacting the commission to tell us you need to apply it? How do we know in terms of monitoring protocol?
Yeah, so every year we do provide the commission with a report on what was done in the current year, as well as the monitoring findings, and then we make recommendations for the next year. And I think we would be able to discuss with the commission at that time, if we thought that Procellacor was necessary for the next year, have that discussion and talk about why we might want to apply it.
So they also do notify us a week before they do any treatment. It's posted at the ponds in a number of locations. It's posted in, I think, the newspaper and cable, and I get an email that says that they're about to start a treatment. So it might be easy. The easiest way is if you're planning to use the Procellacor, Matt, maybe you just include that in the email to us.
Sure.
Right, so at a minimum, you wouldn't be using it this first year?
I don't anticipate that we would use it this year, no. Based on what we have, we're going to be dealing with the Fanwort this year, for sure.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. And I guess just to clarify, I think usually the notifications are done by the treatment contractor, so, at least for this year, that's Solitude Lake Management.
Yeah.
But we like to be in the loop when we can, we know what's going on.
Just as a point, last year they posted the notices on Barrowsville Pond when they were going to treat Chartley Pond.
Oh.
Yes, I'm aware of that situation, and this year we're going to try to facilitate some of that communication so that Solitude is alerting everybody that needs to be notified, and the posters should go in the right pond on the right date.
So, if there are no further questions from the members of the commission, we can consider any questions from members of the audience. I actually don't see any hands up, though.
Yeah, we haven't notified them that it's time yet. So if you do have questions, please just roll your mouse down to the bottom to the tab that says participants, and you should find a blue hand or something that says raise hand. You can click on that if you have a question. It'll pop up and we'll know that you have something.
All right, well, I'm not, on my screen, I'm not seeing any hands go up. So if that's the case, and be aware, you can still email questions after the fact. Is that correct?
Correct. For all of these virtual hearings, even if we think we're finished with our questions, we're holding off till the next meeting before we close the public hearing, just in case people are having trouble with their internet or weren't able to watch the meeting and then they have to catch it on cable. So we are waiting those 2 other weeks before our next meeting before we close the hearing. And Matt has some information he's going to get to us anyway. So people can certainly email us at conservation@nortonmaus.com or go to the website and email us from there.
All right, well, if that's the case, again, I see no hands raised, so we can consider the motion to continue this hearing, file number 250-980, to the next meeting to deal with any potential questions and the new information.
So the next meeting is June 22nd. On your agenda, I think it says the 23rd. That's a Tuesday, so it's the 22nd.
So moved.
We have Lisa making a motion and it is seconded by?
I'll second.
That was seconded by Jean. We're going to do a roll call vote. And so we have Dan Doyle.
Aye.
Dan Pearson.
Aye.
Ron.
Aye.
Lisa.
Aye.
And we have Jean. I'm assuming that's a yes?
Yes.
All right, and I'll vote aye on that. So the motion carries. And Matt, I thank you, and we'll see you next time.
One more thing, Matt, if you could just send anything you have for the meeting, any new info to the Conservation Commission a week prior.
Sure, will do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Internet went down, hold on. Did the internet go down? Did the internet go down? Whoa. Okay, we're back. waiting to get back in. Waiting for conservation to let me back into the meeting, signed back in with the password.
I don't know if you can bring that back, but this tree is obviously, or both of these trees, I'm assuming, if they're got to 135 feet. Oh no, that was the distance, but they seem to be fairly substantial trees, and obviously are at risk for coming down, at least in the reservoir area where the water table is high, and the roots can't really anchor terribly deeply. Have you considered additional plantings after these trees are removed?
Yeah, I mean, Jennifer mentioned we definitely plan to replant some trees, and that was, you know, I'm not sure what the limit, if I gotta come back to do that or how that works. But I mean, we like trees, just not ones that scare us, like when we
planted 7 trees in the almost 10 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, you may want to consider trees that, I mean, oaks and maples get to be huge, but I think there are many choices of very appealing trees that are normally don't grow out to be quite so huge.
Right.
Jen, you can furnish him with a list of those, right?
I can. If they have a question about what types of trees might be helpful, sure.
Yeah, and there's a huge amount of information on the internet, so you can do a little research, and I'm sure, you know, Google trees that grow 20 to 30 feet tall max, and find a lot of choices.
you know, if I wanted to replant like a larger tree, like a 15-foot tree or something, you know, a little more mature tree, is that something that I gotta come back again and get permission to do that, or how does that work in the replanting?
No, you won't need permission for that, but it's helpful if you email me just in case somebody calls and says you're doing work within, 100 feet of a wetland. It's helpful if I already know that that's what you're doing.
Okay.
So, do we have any questions from the rest of the commission members?
Jen, have we received the check for the legal notice?
We'll have to ask Melissa.
I don't have the chart with me. I think they may have, but I don't have their chart with their folder with me, but I think they did.
Okay.
Any other commission member questions? And if not, we can open it up to the audience, but again, I do not see any hands raised. And we can refresh that instruction. If you go to the bottom of your screen and click the participants button, you should get the list of participants, and then the raise hand button is at the bottom of that. And we don't have any hands raised at this point, so again, because of the fact that we have to do this via electronic means, we will be continuing this to be available for any comments that can be emailed to the Conservation Commission. And if there are no further questions, we can consider a motion for continuation.
Mr. Chairman, I'll second Ron's motion if he just made a motion.
Okay, motion made by Ron for continuation to our next meeting, which is June 22nd, I believe. And it was seconded by Dan Pearson. We're going to do a roll call vote. First up is Dan Doyle.
Aye.
And Dan Pearson.
Aye.
Ron.
Aye.
Jean.
Aye.
And Lisa.
Aye.
And I will record an aye. So we, for the applicants, I don't know, well, logging on is probably not all that difficult, but it's really a matter of fielding any questions that might have been sent to us, and then we would close it out and issue an order. So we can move on to the next item on the agenda, which is notice of intent 250-1052 for Scott and Joan Stromo for South Worcester Street, map 26, parcel 103 and 103-1. This has been continued multiple times, and it is for a proposed project to construct 2 triplex units and 5 6-family units with associated roadway, 2 infiltration basins within 100 foot of bordering vegetated wetland. So do we have a representative of that project?
Yes, I'm here, Brian Dunn for MBL Land Development and Permitting. I'm the president and principal.
And I'm Tracy Dewar. I'm the civil engineer at MBL Land Development.
All right. So we have, it looks like you're going to be presenting revised plans, and I don't know if we can share those on the screen, and then maybe you guys can talk about it.
Yeah, just give me a second here. I have them all open, but for some reason they just do not want to show themselves. So, oh, there it is. Can everyone see that plan?
Yeah.
I didn't see anything.
No.
Nothing?
No.
Here we go.
Hey.
Now you have it.
Well, you have part of it.
Not the whole thing though. There we go.
Okay.
Okay, great. And just tell me which page you want me to go to.
Jennifer, maybe 5.0 and 5.1 are the layout.
All right, you'll have to avert your eyes for a second because I don't see the little sneaky thing to get me to the page without having to scroll. And it's just going to take a second for it to catch up. Tracy, do you know which page it is?
5.0 is the first layout sheet.
Oh, of the PDF. That's
Right out of
on the PDF.
9, I believe.
Okay. That's helpful. We just have to wait for it to load, I think.
Yeah, I downloaded it. It was 20 something meg. So
it took a long time, so it could be a few minutes. But you did give us a revised package. Maybe just say what was in the revision package and
Oh, there you go. Sure. So I think we were with you back in December originally. And since then, we haven't changed the number of units or the layout significantly, but what we've done is we've performed test pits on site. And originally, we had 2 infiltration basins to the rear of the site towards the west. And when we did our test pits, we didn't have very conducive soils that would have been good for recharge. Yeah. So what we kind of did is we did some more test pits on the easterly side of the site, and we actually had some pure sand. So instead of having 2 basins towards the rear and the west, we have 1 larger basin on the east now. Number of units hasn't changed, the layout hasn't changed significantly, but that's the main adjustment.
And it actually took one of the basins away from the wetland area closest to the northeast of the site, correct?
Yes.
So as part of this revised layout, this new basin, you can see the back of it is partially located within the 200-foot riverfront area. So we have approximately 6,792 square feet of grading for this basin that's in the riverfront area. It's in the outer 100-foot of the 200-foot riverfront area, and drainage basins are allowed to be in there under the Wetlands Protection Act. The total riverfront area on site is 542,000 square feet, so this is approximately 1.25%.
We see a grading plan of this as opposed to the layout?
Yep. Go down to Jennifer, and it'll be the same view of the grading. There you go.
Jennifer, can you zoom in a little?
Yep. How's that?
There we go.
Yep, so that's the basin. Previously, all stormwater was caught in deep sump-putted catch basins that went to water quality units into the basins that we had before. What we've done as part of this revision is we've added sediment forebays as additional pretreatment, and we have a section on the easterly side of the site that we are doing a low-impact grass swale for pretreatment before it even gets to the sediment forebay. It's kind of the end of the swale there, you can see. If you go to the page previous, Jennifer, that might show the swale better, because it starts closer to South Worcester Street. There you go.
Yeah, sorry, it's not responding very quickly.
I know, it's a long file. You can sort of see the 2 triplex units to the bottom left of the screen. And in that area, and with those 2 6-families, water is flowing off. There's no curb in that area. There's a pea gravel diaphragm for pretreatment, and then it's going into a vegetated grass channel with check dams, and that's for additional treatment before it gets to the sediment forebay and basin. So we've incorporated a little bit of lid into this revised submission.
All right, I'm going to go back down to this page. So, I know you gave a revised notice of intent. I actually left that in the office because I thought I don't need another notice of intent, but...
No, yeah, the only difference was there was no riverfront disturbance before, and now we had to quantify it for the basin.
And so page 3 has been revised with the quantification? Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
And did you include economic alternatives analysis now that you're in the riverfront area?
We did an alternatives analysis. It's one of the appendices in the revised NOI.
Okay. Do you want to just briefly touch on that? The riverfront area, the commission may allow 5,000 square feet or up to 10% of the riverfront area. So not necessarily a given. It does have language in there that the commission may allow it. And they've made some very good attempts to stay out of all resource areas. So it's certainly something we can look at, but maybe you can touch on the economic alternatives analysis.
Sure. Well, the first or the other alternative we have is that this was a previously approved conventional subdivision, which had substantially more disturbance to the buffer zones and riverfront area.
Yeah, we scaled this back quite a lot. If you remember, members of the commission, Mr. Chairman, there was a subdivision here. There was a 40B at one time called Strawberry Fields. And if you remember, maybe Jennifer remembers as well, is the development went all the way back into the buffer zones to the rear of the site, up against the buffer zones of the Wading River, with house lots and septic systems all the way into the back. So when we started to work with the owners of the property, Scott and Joan, we tried to, scale things down and bring things into a more dense area at the front of the site, so we didn't have to go back and discuss, trying to work further into the riverfront. One of the things that we did come up with in this new drainage design is probably a good location for it. Your engineer, John Chessier, reviewed all of this before we went out there and said, okay, let's set up the test pits to go into this location. So we had previously, even shown him where this basin was going to go, so that we could go out there and do some of those tests as required. So, the limit of work has been greatly reduced from some of the original plans that the commission and the planning board has seen.
Right, so now that you reduced the footprint from an older footprint that probably wasn't viable anyway, the question is, what did you do to reduce the footprint of this basin within riverfront? So once you know that impacts to riverfront are unavoidable, then what do you do to reduce the footprint within riverfront? I guess that's what I would want to know. For instance, why wasn't the basin located further to the, what direction that is? I can't see the north arrow. It looks like there's a hill or some hill or something, right there. So can you walk us through what you did to locate this and why it had to be in the riverfront?
Absolutely. We did test pits right on the other side of that mound. You can probably see some of those symbols. This was the only area of the site, other than where the septic field is going to go, that we had soils conducive for recharging to put our base in.
Couldn't take that mound down to make it a little narrower and to swing it, have a different shape.
Yeah, we could try to cut the mound down. We just have to be careful how close to where we split the difference between the good test pits and the bad test pits, to make sure that we're still, yeah.
Right, so if it didn't make sense to intrude in that area, now I can see why you put it where you put it. I just wanted you to walk through that.
Jennifer, could you pan over a little bit so we could see that area as well as the commission of what Lisa is looking at?
All right.
You should try to color.
Really?
Love it.
I don't know how to make it stop. Hold on. Every time I try to click on it, everyone's faces appear.
That's scary.
Okay, all right, that's better. You pan down. No, it's not gonna. Here we go. Like that.
There we go.
There we go.
So, all right, so we do have a test pit in the area that Lisa is looking at, but I think that I can't remember exactly what that data was. Tracy, can you remember what that data was? I'll pull that up. 2020-05.
2020-05.
Yeah.
Oh, back there, yeah, that one was not, because that was where we had our basin previously. Let me just go to the test pit plan. I'll do that here and let you know so you don't have to hand that one.
So that was just my point, was to know that you couldn't, so, once you realize that you can't avoid riverfront, what did you do to minimize impacts? And it sounds like you couldn't relocate that basin completely outside of the riverfront, or you did as much as you could, taking into account the test pit data.
Correct.
Yeah, we did about 24 tests. We did 24 test pits that were witnessed by John Shrestia, poking around trying to find the most suitable spot on the site. That also leaves a suitable site for the septic area and provides the adequate separation between the septic and the drainage that's required. 2020-05, we had silt loam, and that's why we moved the basin from where it was before.
All right, any further questions from other members of the commission, or Lisa, you have additional questions?
I had a question. I was wondering if there was, I think I remember we were talking about no disturbance signs, right by the river's edge, or the no disturbance zone, if we were gonna put any just posts or small signs that said do not disturb.
I think that, if that's the wishes of the commission, Mr. Chairman, I don't see why we wouldn't be in favor of making that a special condition and putting them in wherever Mr. Doyle and Jennifer would like them placed.
Okay.
Yeah, it's. Go ahead, Dan.
Oh no, I was just saying thank you for the answer.
Yeah, and it's standard request that, particularly when many members of the public are not aware of protected areas near their property, it's standard request that we have some kind of a designation, a sign indicating that it is a no disturb zone. And generally, what is our the distances that we put those signs? Usually about 20 feet apart or 30 feet apart?
It's at the 25 feet is a minimum, right? So in this area, here's the wetland. The no disturbance zone sign would be here at the edge of clearing. So that'll be a shorter distance than, say, over here at the edge of the buffer zone, which is 100 feet from that wetland. So it basically goes at the limit of work line. And depending on how close the housing units are or access is, you usually go with a post and rail fence, but there are spots where a sign on a post work better. Then we certainly look at both of those options.
Yeah, we're working in other towns, Mr. Chairman, Jennifer. It's either or. I do some work in Billerica, Massachusetts, and West Bridgewater. They go back and forth, whether it's just posts or split rail, fence, and post, and a sign. So it depends on the project. But whatever the preferences of the commission, I don't see why it wouldn't be a problem to add that as part of a special condition, like I said.
I have a couple things if anybody has any other comments, but the vernal pool habitat, Brian, maybe we can designate that and show it on the plan.
Okay, which one are we talking about?
Well, anything on the grading sheet would be fine.
Okay, so you want the vernal pool habitats on the grading sheet?
That would be helpful.
Okay. Yep.
And so just so that's clear, the vernal pool habitat is 100 feet from, we have it marked here roughly, right? So we're going to call that the mean annual high water for the vernal pool. So within 100 feet within the resource area. So over here, it's really only taking us to the BVW for the short distance, but over here, you can get 100 feet this way. So they're not...
The one to the left.
Correct, yep.
Yes.
So to the right, you're going to go as far over until you hit 100 feet, and then you're out of the BBW. So it's only within the resource area, so it's not gonna be just a circle around it, 100 feet, it's gonna be a different shape.
Yeah, so I understood, I got it.
Yep, so if you wanna draft it, I can look at it before you actually, finalize it and print it.
Cool, yeah, not a problem.
That's helpful.
Yep.
So then, go ahead, Lisa.
I lost you I went offline. I lost my internet connection.
We're talking about designating the vernal pool habitat right now.
Right. All right. I'll ask my O&M question later. But we're on the subject of O&M. Is that back slope going to be just loam and seed? What's the end of that slope against the vernal pool wetland?
That's a wetland and then forested area.
Okay, so there's a retaining wall here first, this big dark line, and then the slope, this grade here. Brian, she's asking, is that?
Yes.
It's 3 to 1. It's grass, and then we're designating slope stabilization blanket.
Okay, Jennifer, we might just want to put something in there about with part of the O&M plan for that prohibits any application of pesticides. Anything that may wash into fertilizers that may wash into the vernal pool.
Yep.
Well, I can remember it. Okay.
Okay.
All right, any other questions from members of the commission?
Yes, I'm getting there.
Okay, go ahead.
So your existing conditions plan marks a pretty large area of turtle nesting habitat. A portion of it will now be the infiltration basin. And I'm wondering if this area can stay open and managed and signed as a turtle nesting habitat, just so management company doesn't go in and put grass all over it.
Yeah, we can do that, and it's funny you bring that up. Tracy and I were talking about that on another project in another town that we did a basin just like this, and our client is taking pictures of the snapping turtles in our pond are laying eggs. So
okay.
So it works. So.
Okay. The landscaping plan that you have.
Yes.
I'm not gonna skip to the page, but the landscaping plan has a lot of arborvitae. There is a lot of deer here, and the arborvitae is just gonna be eaten in the first year. So you may want to consider a different plant than the arborvitae. And I'm wondering if there are spots where instead of, regular grass or Kentucky bluegrass, you can use a native grass like a blue stem. Those are options. Any more of the native trees and shrubs in your landscaping plan. If you could take a look at that.
Okay, do you have a list of native plantings that you would prefer?
I probably have a list of, so did you guys do the plan or did you have a landscape architect?
No, we did the plan.
I'm sure I have some kind of a list. Yeah. There's a detail for a chain link fence. Where is that going?
It's around the basin.
Okay, we'll have to double check the riverfront section, but I don't think you can fence a basin in the riverfront area. So we'll have to take a look at that. Then I just have questions about, once people move in, they're going to want to get access to the river and to follow the paths that are currently there. And I'm just wondering if we can have some signage just to keep people on the paths so they're not cutting all new paths. I realize that probably goes with the management company, but if your client is amenable to a condition about that?
Yeah, they're not going to really have. Oh, go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, I don't see why we couldn't put some signs on the path that's coming from the edge of the road.
They just don't really have access at the moment because of the guardrail and the 3 to 1. Is that something you want revised to open up the path?
So like right where your mouse is right now, Jennifer, right there,
Yep.
you would have to open up the guardrail there in order for people to come down.
Oh, they're gonna find their way down.
Yeah, I bet.
Open the guardrail.
Well, let's see if there's an easier way to do it, right? So how they're supposed to drive in to access to maintain the basin, correct, along here? So this is an opening?
Because we have the fence, we have an opening in the guardrail and a gate in the fence.
Okay. So maybe this is a spot where a little section could be left open so people can access it this way.
Yeah.
And just reroute the trail.
Yeah, that's
So
not a problem.
if you maybe offset the gate by the length of a car, or offset it into the entrance a little bit instead of right at the edge of the road.
I have a question when everybody is all set. Does anybody have anything else to add?
I have a bunch of questions. I know this one's been hanging around for a while, but did we talk about snow storage, snow plowing areas?
We did,
On the plan.
they're on the layout plans. Which Jennifer would be like 9 and 10 in the PDF. We had multiple locations that are outside of the resource areas and the buffer zones.
Okay, so here's one. Well, maybe we should do it as we're driving in, right? All right, so you drive in here. Not seeing one until we get here. So I'm going to go down to the next sheet because I think you have more there. Okay, so then we continue driving. That's the first spot.
To the north.
Looks like another spot here.
And then one on the other side of the subject system. That if they're coming from that, those 2-6 families, the truck can just go straight across.
And then there's one here, but I think on the landscaping plan you have a bunch of trees here too. So they have some areas designated. I hope we didn't just loosely use it again.
Alright. It looks like we did lose Lisa.
I think we lost, yeah. Dan, did you have a question in the meantime, Dan Pearson?
Oh, just quickly, would it help to have signage either on the plan or at the site regarding the turtle area, or is that overkill?
Yeah, we just mentioned that, so we're going to condition.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry, I missed it. And I can attest to how much deer love arborvitae trees. They decimated some of my neighbors' trees. They really do enjoy it.
We'll have to get those deer-resistant kind.
Right. So I think Lisa is back.
I'm back again. I just keep my connection.
That's okay. I was losing it all morning and all afternoon, and I was a little horrified about the meeting, but so far I'm okay. So go on ahead with the
access to the swale. How are you gonna get to the swale?
I think I have to go back to the grading plan for that.
Yeah, you do. And then when we're talking about the swale, I assume, did you include some O&M measures to maintain that swale in the O&M plan?
Yes, we've added it to the O&M map and then the O&M write-up in the drainage report.
Okay. And has John reviewed the SWIP, Jennifer?
John has the new packet of information. He gave us an estimate for the follow-up review. I don't think we've received the check yet, but we also haven't been in the office, and we'll be in tomorrow to see if it's been received. Brian, do you guys know, or Tracy, do you know if it?
Yeah, as far as I know, it was supposed to have been sent from Scott, so.
Okay. So he'll be reviewing that as well?
Correct, yep.
Okay. Okay, so access to that swale?
Access to the swale, it can be accessed by the basin access by the forebay.
I think you have the chain link fence around there.
We have the.
Is there a gate?
Yeah, if you get in the gate, you're in the basin access. All right, we can.
So there's one of the gates, right?
Yeah, I think they're gonna have to add a gate at that right at the bottom. Not at the bottom, but they gotta get around to the swale.
Yeah, so by the dumpster, maybe at the start of the swale, we can push the guardrail where it starts back and give them an opening there. That's probably.
Yeah, I used to live in a condo, and you would not believe what you guys stick us with in the end. And the vet come and they say, "How the heck are we supposed to? Why they built it this way? We can't get people down there." I've seen it all, so you got to make it easy for them. Okay, and then the last thing I had was, so you weren't previously in the riverfront, now you are. Did the fee go up, Jennifer? Doesn't the fee go up, right?
Well, the fee would go up, yeah. I don't know that we identified that yet.
Okay. Okay, that's all I had.
All right, I have a question about why you need a chain link fence around that detention basin or retention basin.
It's something that's requested by commissions or boards for safety. They don't want children getting in it. Or this basin isn't really shallow.
But this is going to be privately owned, correct?
Yes.
But also you have an adjacent river, so.
Yeah. It's not a detention basin.
So I think.
And there's guardrail along that road on the whole way, right? There's no way for somebody to fall off the road into the basin or anything, right?
No, the guardrails to protect.
Ash, get your Wi-Fi off.
So we can see other people.
Oh, and just so you know, I just pulled up the drawdown calc. Because it's sand, it's about 2.5 hour drawdown, so it shouldn't stay wet long.
Alright, and I don't see hands up, but if there are members of the audience that want to ask questions now, or you can send them in by email. Otherwise, as previously stated, we will be continuing this hearing. What is the information additionally that we need? Is there some?
We're waiting for for John Chesia to review the final revisions to make sure everything's all set.
Okay, all right.
Yep. And then in case there were any comments from today's meeting.
All right, again, I see no hands up, and our next meeting is on the 22nd
Correct.
of June. So we can consider a motion, unless there are further questions or information, to continue this hearing until June 22nd.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion made by Ron and I believe seconded by, was it Dan Peterson or Dan Doyle?
Yes.
Dan Peterson, all right. Again, roll call vote. Dan Doyle?
Aye.
Dan Pearson?
Aye.
Ron?
Aye.
Gene?
Aye.
And Lisa?
Aye.
And I'll vote an aye on that. So thank you and see you all next time. And
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. Thank you so much.
And Scott and Tracy, if you could just submit any new information you have a week before the meeting on 6/22. Right?
Yeah, what we'll do is we'll work up the riverfront calc. We'll share with you, Jennifer, tomorrow, and make sure we get that fee over to you as well. Okay?
And don't print any revised plans or anything until we hear back from Chesia. This way we're doing it all at once and you're not revising multiple times.
Yeah. Hopefully he's already started to look at this and he's not waiting for a high sign to be paid. I'm sure that after paying him all, the times that we've done that so already, that we're not going to be held up at the next meeting. So maybe you could reach out to him and make sure he's looking at the plans.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye now.
So the next item is a discussion to clarify order of conditions with regard to file number 250-1054 concerning New England Power Company. It has to do with a transmission line. I believe is that work of right of way, actually. Do we have a representative for that project? It looks like we do.
You're all set. You can.
Yep. Okay, thank you. Good evening. My name's Allison Milliman. I'm here from BSC Group. I'm here on behalf of New England Power. I just want to discuss with you the order of conditions prepared by your commission. I want to make sure that there's an understanding of expectations and to talk about some of the concerns that the client has with regards to easement activities for the utility along private lands and how that may affect how some of these orders are interpreted. So I had reviewed these with the client about 3 weeks ago or so and provided responses to Jennifer in an email. So Jennifer, how best do you think do you want to go line by line for each of them?
Trying to see if I can put your email on here.
Okay, that's probably the best way, yeah.
Can you see it? Or no?
Not yet, not yet.
I know.
For some reason, the PDFs like to hide when I go to open them. So let me try again. Okay.
Almost there. There you go.
All right. So you have special condition number 16, Allison.
Sure. So we are still in the process of finalizing the CMP with Natural Heritage. I wanted to make the commission aware, though, that we are currently operating in some towns where we already have our order recorded. and hopefully subsequently soon in Norton, when we get to the appeal period process, that certain operation and maintenance activities are being allowed to already occur. So that's basically the mowing, installing the sediment controls, the matting, any excavation for the poles. The crux of the requirement for the CMP was actually building new roads where we didn't currently have, or like expanding roads where they were too small for the current work activities. So that activity cannot occur until we have our CMP in place. What's holding that up right now is the transfer of a parcel that's requirement for the mitigation. So that's where that is at this time. So there's a possibility that when we record this order, that'll still be pending. I just wanted to make that that clear. The turtle protection plan and the salamander protection plan, they do contain privileged information. So I just want to make sure that when they are confirmed by Natural Heritage, that if necessary, we redact anything that might need to be redacted before we provide that. So,
of course.
The next thing is that we do have a professional certified wildlife biologist that's providing oversight to the on-site wildlife monitors required through Heritage, and then it's myself and staff member Travis Yando that are overseeing the environmental monitoring on site. So we'll be the contact if there's any questions or concerns while the construction activities are ongoing. We've also provided, attached to Jennifer for the Commission's review, the ERM guidance document that was prepared for the work at Schvack landfill site, specific for this project activity.
Correct.
We provided all the names of the contractors that will be working on the project here. We will be, if we haven't provided already the other documentation, we will be providing that before we start work. But one requirement that's typical is the pre-construction meeting. And we're requesting, due to, we are still, especially National Grid, they're still working under kind of the social distancing requirements right now. If we were going to meet in the field, it would just be a handful of people, maybe, 3 or 4 people. We'd have to maintain distancing and wear masks. I suggested perhaps we could do something like we're doing here and have a Zoom meeting with a larger construction team if that's preferred, if that's allowed. Okay. Another condition that we have is that we have our sediment controls approved prior to starting any earthwork. Sometimes this is problematic for the longer linear projects because it requires miles and miles of controls, unlike a development project where we can kind of get them all set up at once and then get them approved and start our grading. So we're just requesting, if possible, that we kind of do like a rolling approval process with you, Jennifer. Some towns allow us to, maybe after you've come up the first time and see that the contractor is actually installing them correctly and that we're out there making sure they are, if you could consider perhaps photos and reference to map sets and email approvals to keep things moving forward, because it will be happening kind of like on every few days. They're going to want to put in new ones and move forward. So, yep. Okay. Thank you. As far as the wetland replication area is concerned, I appreciate the language that says that we would need to start it before any fill is placed. So I want to clarify that. We will get the replication area started as soon as possible. It's going to be a separate contractor. They typically use like a landscaping contractor to do the replication areas. It's hard to get them scheduled sometimes to get out there before they actually. They're dealing with outage constraints right now as far as hitting milestones on this project. I wanted to see if it would be possible to, if we don't get it done. Obviously, we're dealing with a 45-day appeal period too for the DP before we can record. Now we're going into the summertime. Would it be possible if they started the replication area at the same time that they're doing excavation for the poles? But if we have it completed before the pole fill is actually within the wetland, would that be an acceptable compromise?
I think that's fine. And are you aware of the policy from DEP now? After the 10-day appeal period's gone by, the applicant can send a letter to DEP with a specific heading asking if they intend to appeal. And if they send you the letter that says, no, they don't intend to appeal, and you copy the Conservation Commission, you can begin work before the end of the state of the emergency in the 45 days.
Yeah, so NEP did send an email. We're awaiting response, so thank you. And there's two other conditions I just want to clarify. They're similar, but they're slightly contradictory. Special condition number 44 discusses sidecast materials, which I recall we did review together at the hearings. We will be excavating in actual wetland resource areas because that's where the existing poles are going. So they're going to be using some kind of containment to put the spoils that are being created while they're excavating. Those are the materials that'll be in, what we talked about, kind of control boxes or surrounded by the compost socks on fabric. But then there's also a special condition number 47, which states that materials cannot be stored within 100 feet of BVW, BLSF, or ILSF. And I just want to confirm that there's no confusion there, and that we will have soil stockpiles. They will be contained, but they will be within 100 feet of resource areas.
Correct. Yep.
Okay. Yep. Okay, thank you. And the last comment was kind of the big one with the utility company, and that's that we do have some special conditions that are on our order in perpetuity, specifically 38, 42, 45, 46, 47, and 60. And all of these we can commit to during the project activities associated with utility work on the right-of-way. But I want to remind the Commission that a large majority of this right-of-way is privately owned land. And having these conditions on the order and to remain in certificate of compliance in perpetuity is a challenge for the fact that the utility company is operating with an easement, and the only rights they have really is to maintain their existing utility facilities within that easement. So whatever, say, the landowner does or private landowner does after we leave that right-of-way, that's a difficult predicament because NEP is holding an order and subsequent certificate of compliance that has these requirements, and they don't have any really control over what happens on that land after the project is over, if I'm explaining that correctly. So for example, see if I can bring up one of the special conditions. For example, materials should not, like we just discussed, the materials should not be stored or stockpiled within 100 feet of resource areas. So they're private landowners that will be doing their landowner activities after the utility work is complete, and I guess they don't want to be on the hook for that. So I don't know if there's a way that these conditions can be resolved in the certificate of compliance when that is issued, if these can be kind of lifted from in perpetuity, or no longer have them be under NEP's conditions, if this makes sense.
Well, the order of conditions goes with the property. It doesn't go with the contractor or with the applicant.
Yes, that's the concern. So you're imposing conditions on a landowner who...
If you get a certificate of compliance, then you're no longer...
Okay. So
somebody
not sure who that is.
Turn off their...
Hey, Ron. Ron, you might, yeah, there you go. Yeah, I would think once you have the certificate of compliance, activities by the landowner no longer relate to you.
Right, but if you look at this as a legal instrument, it says it goes with the, it's on these properties, right? So Allison, did you do the book and pages for every single parcel that you traversed on this property for the project?
No, so that's one point, is that the legal department does determine the book and pages that we record our orders to. This has not yet been recorded.
Right, so would it go with every landowner's?
My understanding is they choose their fee-owned properties.
Okay. Okay. So I see your point, because it wouldn't apply to the lot in perpetuity because it's somebody else's lot. So they're almost conditions through the course of construction. And it ends at the end of construction, not in perpetuity with the land.
Exactly. That's what we would like to request, please. Yep.
Well, I think we're kind of splitting hairs here. I mean, I can't imagine.
Well, it's a legal issue for their.
Okay, but still, the commission is not going to begin a legal process on an order of conditions that is closed. It's so it's kind of, from my perspective, kind of irrelevant. Even though the lawyers will say, well, it's not irrelevant, but it is irrelevant.
What's more, if someone whose property borders the project, if they are not in compliance with some wetland restriction, we would take that up with that individual, wouldn't we? We wouldn't, unless I'm misunderstanding.
Yeah, and that's really the purpose of the certificate, Dan, is to just go out and make sure that the N-Grid project left the parcel as it was in pre-construction condition. So someday we went out there and said, oh, you have this pile of fill there. And the landowner says, oh, that was the N-Grid project. They left it there. So then you get into the finger pointing thing. But, that's why we have to make sure it's, the site is, they leave the site the way they found it, basically. But, no, I understand why an attorney doesn't like to see this in perpetuity on something that is not assigned to them. They don't own it. So, I think the comment is relevant. I get why it's relevant. So I think we lost Jennifer, but
no, I'm still here.
Oh, you're still here. So
I'm trying to close something else out.
All right.
Anyway.
So how do we reassure you? I mean, do we give you a letter saying, obviously after the issuing of the certificate of compliance, parts of the project on private property is not in perpetuity? Or?
Yeah, I think it would be specifically referencing special condition number 61, which is very clear that these conditions are in effect in perpetuity and continue after the issuance of a certificate of compliance, and that it's the landowner's responsibility to adhere to the listed conditions. I think that's the concerning language. So if we could, it could be addressed in the request for certificate of compliance. I think if that would be amenable to the commission.
yeah,
So,
I think that's the cleanest way of doing it. And just acknowledge, when you sign off, it's in substantial compliance with the exception of, special condition 61, which does not prevent in perpetuity. The project duration.
Is condition 61 on the next page? Because I don't see it in the section that
Well, 61 is the one I
see 60.
Perpetuity, right?
Yes.
61 is the perpetuity statement. Yeah, so it applies to 38, 42, 45, 46, 47, 60.
Okay.
So in lieu of amending the order, Jennifer, don't you think the cleanest thing to do is when they request the certificate, they just clean it up?
As long as they remember to put it in their letter, because I don't know that I'm going to remember when they asked for a certificate of compliance that we had that one stipulation. So we can either just delete number 61 since it hasn't been recorded anyway and give you a revised last page and you record that with the rest of the order. Or they would just have to remember to tell us, hey, remember 61, we're not looking at it.
Well, I would make a motion to administratively update or revise the order of conditions for 250-1054 to strike condition 61.
Lisa makes a motion.
I'll second.
Gene seconds. Unless there's further discussion, we can consider a vote on the motion. So we'll do a roll call. Dan Doyle?
I abstain.
Dan Pearson?
Aye.
Ron? Ron, you're on mute. You have to do a hand signal. Thumbs up. Okay, good. Who else do we have here? Lisa?
Gene.
Oh, Gene, yes.
Aye.
And Lisa is an aye, and I'll register an aye on that as well.
Sure.
So, Allison, I hope that meets the concerns.
I think it will. Thank you very much. I appreciate this.
Oh, don't you?
Okay, have a great evening if we're all set.
You too.
Thank you.
Right, thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Take care.
All right, very good. So, our next item is
Next one are the hearings that are continued to 45 days after the end of the state of the emergency.
Okay.
We still haven't received any new information on that, so there's no need to take it up until after the state of emergency ends. And then you can go to request for the 2 certificates of compliance. They're both duplicate certificates. And we did actually ratify those to assist with closings, so people wouldn't have to hold up their closings. And so you're just ratifying the decision for each of those duplicate certificates.
Can we do those in one motion?
Sure.
All right, so we'll consider a motion for ratification of the issuing of the duplicate certificates for file numbers 250-375 and 250-894.
Make that motion.
Second.
Motion made by Lisa, seconded by Dan Doyle. Again, Dan, first Dan Doyle, a vote. Roll call.
Aye.
Dan Pearson.
Aye.
Ron, thumbs up. Thumbs up. And Gene?
Aye.
And Lisa?
Aye.
And myself and I. Motion carries. Next item is review the draft minutes. Anybody have any comments, questions about those? Let's see, do we have, we don't have the attendance. Oh yes, here we have Lisa, Ron, Gene, Dan Pearson. We definitely have a quorum to approve it. Any questions about the minutes of May 11th?
No, I'll make a motion to accept the minutes for Monday.
Motion made by Lisa and a second by Dan Pearson. Again, Dan Doyle.
Aye.
Dan Pearson.
Aye.
Ron, thumbs up. Thumbs up. All right. And Gene.
Aye.
And Lisa, I'm assuming an aye.
Aye. Yeah.
And I'll do an aye. So we've approved the minutes. Nothing's listed under new business unless there's something that just recently came up.
We have one of the violations on South Worcester and Old Colony Road. We were given a plan. Well, let me know if you can see that picture.
Was that the old gas station?
Correct. So it just they gave a plan and said that they were proposing to do some landscaping in the back, and the existing paved area would be redone. So I'm just showing the picture because before I answer him, when I look at that picture, I don't see that as paving.
I was just gonna say, what paved area?
Yeah. So it would certainly take grading, repaving, and there's no stormwater management now. So it looks to me like they would need to do stormwater management. But before I answered him, I just wanted you to look at the plan. You can't actually take a vote or anything because it's can't take a vote or anything. I'm just showing you that in my estimation, it looks like it's not paved and that they would need to do stormwater management and file the permit through the Conservation Commission.
Don't they need a notice of intent?
I would think so, yes. Yeah.
So this is the building that the roof caved in on, and have they replaced the building, or are they reconstructing it?
It looks like they're reconstructing it. They've been working on it for a while, so yes, this is Chartley Pond right here. There's wetland right behind the building.
Yeah, literally right behind it. Do you know what they're doing, what they're gonna turn it into?
I do not. Yeah.
The only activity I've seen there is cars from the fire service. I don't know if they're taking over one of the fire inspector services. I forget the guy's name now, but I've seen his trucks there. They seem to be doing their repair work.
Is the scaffolding still up there? I didn't think it was there a week ago.
Well, this is an old photo.
Okay, it's from like March. Okay.
This was from our the violation notice that went to.
Oh, gotcha.
Okay. So just for your information on that one. And then we did have one other email that came in recently about 184 West Main Street. You had agreed to their restoration plan of the riverfront area, and they were supposed to get the planting plan done, you know, typically we say before June 1. An email came in last week asking if they could plant in the fall instead.
Where is this site?
It is where the cable station is, though, on Box Shop Curve with,
Oh, yes, okay.
whatever the restaurant is on the corner.
Right, that big, good big building there, right?
Yeah. I mean, my initial response to them was, this is a violation and you were supposed to have it started already. But they're asking if they can wait and plant in the fall instead.
Wouldn't it be better to plant in the summer than in the fall, or?
Yeah, spring and fall.
Oh, it is, okay.
Yeah, and it's difficult because of the rain and the heat. During the summer, it's very difficult to get plants to survive.
Jennifer, did they give us a plan?
They did. I don't have it ready. We went over it last week.
Okay, so we approved a plan, they just haven't mobilized to plant it.
Correct. Planting was the whole plan.
Well, I think it might have been delayed by the lockdown.
Okay.
We'll give them the benefit of the doubt for the lockdown, yeah.
Okay.
So if that's the violation list, then I see administrative approvals. What?
Yep, there are just a number of places where I've had to go in the last couple of weeks with hazard trees. Ones that are ready to fall down, they're dead or needed to come down right away. So those I did inspect.
So they don't require a filing. They just needed to be reviewed. Okay.
Correct. Well, I did administrative approval.
Okay.
With one tree, I'm not requiring a permit for that. Unless you really want it.
No.
I didn't think so.
All right. So anything else in this list of?
The only other thing I would mention on the agenda is that I applied for 2 grants. One is a tech grant to get the projector and screen material for Edith Reed, so we can do presentations inside the building, and if people rent the building, they can do presentations there as well. And then the Division of Ecological Restoration's culvert replacement grant program. I applied for the design work for the Wading River at Walker Street. And we've applied for this for a number of different grant programs and we haven't received any yet, but it's worth trying again. And I do have one grant that is due on Thursday, so hopefully I can get that one in. And that's it for me.
All right. Any other items from commission members or anybody else?
I know I see we still have one citizen on the among the audience, and I wonder if she has any.
We also have Peter.
Oh, and also Peter. Yes, I'm sorry.
Everyone!
Hi, Peter.
Hi, Peter.
Hey, everyone!
So, Hague is that Norton
Media.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know who Arlene teaches, so Arlene, if you have any questions, you can unmute yourself.
I did have one thing that I was going to start working on. I've been meaning to do it since I moved into my house. On the path from my backyard to the reservoir, there's like a lot of trash. It seems like a junkyard that somebody just like started. And I'm going to start cleaning it up hopefully next weekend. And it's just like old PVC, a lot of old wood, empty plastic buckets, like just junk being left back there attracts more junk. So
My interpretation is that falls under maintenance and doesn't require any official application.
Yeah, it's not my land. I believe it's just public. It's the land, the wooded area between like the houses on Alder Road and the reservoir.
Okay, so that is conservation property, but that's good that you mention it because it is within a resource area and someone might call and say you're doing something you're not supposed to. But so yes, cleaning up trash itself is not a problem. If there's vegetation cut, then that's something we would need to talk about. But trash, you can clean all the trash you want out.
Okay, sounds good.
And I just want to say, if you need any help with that project, I'm volunteering Lisa.
Well, I was just gonna say, I just need to bring my badge. Just bring your badge, Dan.
No, I'll have bags. The big thing is that I'll have a
badge
next weekend. So
badge.
All right. It sounds like we have pretty much dealt with everything this week. So we could consider a motion to adjourn, and I'm not going to do a roll call vote.
Move.
Okay, motion made by Ron. Seconded by Dan Doyle. Tell me, when do we come off this electronic? Is there any discussion of when we go back to town hall?
That is highly unlikely that's going to happen anytime soon. So we did get an email that said town hall would be open to employees starting on next Monday, but not open to the public still. We'll be zooming for a while.
I know, but it seems a little extreme that people can't walk in and get a building permit or whatever with a mask, but whatever. We'll stay tuned. Okay.
That's right. Hopefully we can hopefully the meetings will be held at the town hall in the future, right?
All right. Good. All right.
Thank you.
I think I'm about to sign off.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Great. Till next time.